Hey guys, Kyle, the Death Knight of Anime here, bringing you my review for the latest One Piece episode. And before I get into anything else, we obviously need to talk about that ending, the ending where we basically get the reveal of the graves at pretty much Oden Castle, where it's revealed that pretty much that basically all the samurai and basically all the Wano people we've come to know up to this point, like basically Kinemon, all of them, they're supposedly dead, and this is one of those reveals, obviously, that for anime only viewers who exist, it's obviously gonna be shocking and in some ways a little confusing, but once it's revealed, it is once it's with the reveal itself, without giving too much away, let's just say that the pretty much answer, the best comparison I can draw when it comes to the answer of this, it's basing on some the reveal of the answer to this. It's basing on some kind of Back to the Future type shit. That's the best comparison I can give, and I've already probably given away too much just by making that comparison. But yeah, it's basically on that kind of reveal. And but the thing is, even with even when the whole details of what's going on are revealed, it's still one of the most epic reveals. It's still one of the like top 10, like top 5 epic reveals of this arc. And like in pretty much the way it's one of those moments that is both epic as hell, but the context of it is like hacks as shit. I'm not even joking with you on that. That's kind of literally that's literally how I can describe it to you, is that but the means of basically how of basically how this whole thing is explained. It's like you're basically gonna look back on you're gonna sit back in your chair at the explanation and say, damn, that 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 is kind of overpowered as hell. Like literally, that's what you're gonna say to this whole when this whole thing is explained to you, and yeah, it's I mean, even when it's and honestly, even watching this episode and expecting that reveal, even now I was still kind of blown. Even now I was still kind of blown away. Even though I've read the manga and I've experienced this reveal, it was still just as it was still just as it was still just as impactful for me as it was in the manga. Um, so first, and so now one so now this so now in terms of so now one thing I need to say, though, is that this is kind of an odd review, because even though Crunchyroll has listed this episode as episode 908, it's it, but even though Crunchyroll has listed this episode as episode 908, by all technical purposes, this episode is episode 907, because last week was definitely more of a pretty much of a special more than like an actual episode. And my anime and the thing is, funny thing is, and the thing is, even my anime manga tracker app was having a hard time in basically figuring that out. Like I was. Like every time I check my anime manga tracker, it would go from saying episode 907, episode 908. It's like, yes, it was pretty much episode 907, episode 908. Like, yeah, it was such a weird thing, and it was such a weird thing and process in how it was trying to identify itself. Um, with that said, one thing I will start off to say is that for the first minutes of this episode, and even more after that, the Law had all my sympathy, because I can only imagine how much of a migraine he must have developed just from watching watching the recklessness of this of the whole food caper unfold, and and even after that, you could tell he was just pissed as hell, and he wanted at every turn in order to smack Luffy up the head, and honestly, in a weird way, I was kind of right. and of course and I was right there with him because in a lot of ways we pretty much have to remember like don't get me wrong with Luffy obviously he basically did the right thing he basically gave the city of he gave the town of Okaboro like pretty much a reason to continue living and they gave them food and nourishment and whatnot, but that is going to have in this kind of situation, that kind of thing, it is going to have fucking consequences because Kaido is gonna learn about this, and what's Kaido gonna do after that? He's gonna destroy everything, and when pretty much Kaido finally makes his and when Kaido finally makes his like official appearance here, yeah, he is. Let's just say he is basically going to give us even more of a reason to fear in order to fear the Yonko, even pretty much more than even more so even more so even more so even more so than basically Big Mom did. Well, like if you thought the confrontation between like Big Mom and Luffy initially was bonkers, Kaido is gonna step things up even more. That's all I'll say about it. Now. Now pacing wise, I do have to say this episode was definitely a little bit more of a difficult episode to pin down because it did definitely focus maybe a little too much on the escape, but once we got to the point of the episode where the actual food was delivered, it turned into a pretty good episode, just pretty much on the merit of getting to see this hopeful and joyous atmosphere. This hopeful and joyous atmosphere return to the town of Okaburo, even basically return to a pretty much town that was pretty much ready to die, and seeing it thrive again. It gave me just such a warm feeling of hope, and just seeing like pretty much the town of Okaburo just kind of thrive again. It was such a nice feeling to have. Where the pacing does kind of lose me though is again just from that beginning where I feel that the episode could have trimmed down the escape just a little bit, and through that maybe we could have gotten a little more focus on some other stuff, but but again with the whole ending of this with the way the episode ended, obviously, I can kind of understand as to what the mentality was. If nothing else, though, although funny thing about this episode is pretty much despite the pacing problems I have, one thing I feel an episode like this did is it reminds us why we like Luffy as a character so much, because with Luffy he's obviously supposed to be the bad guy. He's a pirate. He basically steals, but it's basically through him stealing from pretty much Orochi that he managed to give hope back to back to Okaboro. Like it was because of Luffy that. It's because of Luffy that pretty much the town has hope again. So yeah, I feel that and Luffy he pretty much is determined. Obviously things aren't necessarily going to go his way initially, but you can see that Luffy does have every intention of turning Wano back, returning Wano back to the people, which yeah, again, that isn't going to go as smoothly as he would like, at least not initially. But yeah, just in general, I feel that this episode it did such a good job of reminding us why Luffy is as a character is basically so great. Like as much as I love like Naruto and Ichigo and whatnot, I am kind of starting to realize just from how I'm starting to appreciate just from how much of a good character that Luffy is when it comes to him being the main character of One Piece. It is actually kind of, it's really kind of nice in order to I'm starting to appreciate him a lot more as a character, to be honest with you. With that being the case, despite the pacing problems I had, there was still a lot of subtle reveals and moments that made this episode worth it. Like again, for instance, with the whole reveal of that Law has basically set up base camp in the ruins of Oden Castle, and that and with that pretty much and with that pretty much reveal and with the reveal of those graves, it's gotten to a point now, obviously, where basically Kiku is hiding something, and whatever she's hiding, she kind of has to at least pretty much spill some of the beans, or basically, or she still has to spill like at least a good chunk of the beans of basically who she is now, and but of course Kiku isn't the only one who's got some explaining to do. Obviously, like from Kinemon, Momonosuke, all those guys, they pretty much have their own explaining to do for sure. And yeah, I'm repeating myself obviously, but the pretty much story they reveal, it's some pretty whacked out, but some pretty epic shit for sure. Um, and and the thing is, just in that name alone, Oden Castle is such a very interesting thing because just the name of Oden Castle is all you need to know in terms of how much that building and the name is going to be a focal point of the whole series going forward. And looking back, it's actually honestly amazing how much One Piece even manages to build on that one aspect before even revealing the actual character to us. Like the character of Oden, he gets so much development even before the character himself is actually revealed. I'm not even joking with you on that. It's actually kind of amazing, to be honest with you. Um, and And now, one final thing to talk about too is when it came to revisiting this material, when it came to revisiting a lot of this material through this episode, it actually made me realize that I think we have kind of reached the conclusion of Tama's like story arc. I mean, obviously like Tama herself is still gonna be like is still gonna have a role in the story going forward, but in terms of her whole character arc and how it relates to Ace Luffy, we've reached the pretty much end of that story thread, that from story thread. So from here, she's just going to be kind of relegated to a secondary character. Now, having said that, with basically Speed taking Tama home, that kind of has its own frightening implications. And again, all of them are gonna have to do. All of them are gonna have to do when we finally get the big reveal of Kaido. Like when basically Kaido makes his official appearance in this arc. Yeah, there are gonna be more than a few drop jaws, I'm sure. Um, yeah, guys, that's my review. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe, follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Crunchyroll. Death Knight of Anime, signing off. Later, guys.